What's up?
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, hear you loud and clear. Hi,
Right.
sorry about the time confusion.
Oh, that's no problem.
Yeah, I was running grocery errands and stuff, and it's like, oh, my calendar says 6 p.m., so I got time. Like, oh, whoops. Anyway,
Um, yeah, so I can just kind of jump right in and start from the beginning and then jump around here and there.
cool.
Um, I know that is it true that you first started as a disc jockey for Radio Disney?
I did. I came from a radio background. I graduated from the University of North Texas. I got a Bachelor of Arts in radio, TV, film, which turned into an internship at a radio network where Radio Disney was established in Dallas at the time. So I was a DJ for all these various formats, from country to top 40 to heavy metal. And then Radio Disney started in 96. And then fast forward to 2000, I heard about auditions with Funimation from radio station coworkers, and I went in, and that's where my voiceover career started.
And were you given the role of the narrator in DBZ before Gohan?
No, I actually got Gohan first.
Okay.
The person, I forgot his name, who was doing the narrator, left for whatever reason, and they had my demo on file, and they said, "You want to take a crack at this? We're losing our narrator." It's like, oh, dude, of course. I used to go around imitating the Canadian one, so why not? And Dale Kelly, that's his name. So while I didn't really sound like Dale Kelly's original narration, if anyone has the original VHS of Z in the early days, you can hear Dale Kelly as the narrator. And then we went back and redid those uncut. So now if you collect the Blu-rays, they've got a consistent cast all the way through, where I'm Ox King instead of Mark Britton, or um, Chris Sabat has less roles. He voiced a lot of characters in the beginning, and then over time they started giving him to some other people.
And for the role of Gohan, were you told to completely come up with the voice you're on your own?
Well, the voice is what I gave in my audition.
Okay.
All the only parameters were that he's in high school.
Mhm.
So, I had the audition script, which had a picture of him, a description of him, and some lines from various episodes completely out of context that show kind of a range of emotion. And that's usually what an audition is for voiceover anyway,
Right.
for character stuff. So I went in and tried out. I tried out for other characters, and I honestly don't remember who else I read for. But 2 weeks after I did the audition, Chris Sabat called me and said, "Congrats, we want to bring you in and do some voices." So he didn't tell me I wasn't Gohan right away. I did some bit part unnamed characters in the Bardock special.
Okay.
That's actually the first thing to come out with my voice on it. And then I started doing stuff after Cell, but before Gohan goes to high school. There's still some filler eps in there with Mr. Bourbon's gang. So I'm like background character in that. And then they said when they were ready to start with Gohan going to Orange Star High, they said, "Congrats, we like your audition best, and we wanted to see if you could do the lip sync thing, because that's such a technical thing. Not all the people that do voiceover are comfortable doing the lip sync, and the beeps throw them off and all that." And I say, "Well, I guess I fooled them. I wasn't a master at that, but eventually they liked it, and they worked with me enough, and I guess I got proficient enough at it. So I've been very, very blessed to be Gohan for 21 years now."
Right.
Yeah.
Was obviously the whole thing about how much physicality and kind of taxing it is to voice bigger characters in DBZ, was that something that you grappled with really easily, or did it kind of take a while?
It took a while, and I think it took a while for everyone, because
Right.
it was new to all of us. None of us were used to doing a lot of screaming for video games, although I did do some stuff. Really early on, we did Blood Rain. A lot of the DBZ actors, like Laura Bailey, was Blood Rain, and I did
Yeah.
some monsters, and Chris Sabat's in there, and Chris Rager, and some other DBZ folks. But we hadn't done a lot of games early on. So we quickly learned that DBZ is like a boot camp for screaming, and we use that as a reference point nowadays when RPGs, first-person shooters, A lot of games have a lot of screaming. Sometimes it's nothing but screaming, especially if you're on a Call of Duty type game and you're a soldier and that's all you do is battlefield chatter. You blow your voice.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that takes me down. I have flashbacks of doing like, oh, you know, powering up and like running out of breath and like, okay, take another breath. And then sounding ragged after that. And like, oh, I got to let my voice heal for the next day or two. And now we combat that with things like Chinese cough syrup and throat coat and, you know, hot tea with honey. And we're ready. You know, normally if the session gets scheduled, they'll say, hey, fair warning, you're going to be doing a lot of screaming. So be ready. And I'll go, okay, I'll be ready. Mm-hmm. And other times in the past, I have no warning at all. And it's a 9 a.m. session. And I just got up like the hour before. And I would show up at the studio. And it's like, all right, well, get your voice pitched higher. You're supposed to sound 17, not 40. Like, oh, what? Good morning. Yeah. Some throat spray. Coat those, lubricate those vocal cords. Like, all right, let's see if I can get the pitch higher. Okay. And then go from there.
And this might be kind of obvious, but did you ever pass out while voicing Gohan?
I came close. I came very close. I think some other people did. I think Justin Cook did as Raditz. I think Sean might have. Or I nearly did. I mean, okay. You got to learn about breath control, and none of us really knew about that at the time. All we knew is, like, we're in the recording booth, and it's like, oh, the room is spinning. And it's crazy. And when people, you know, pass out, they're knocking the music stand, which has the script on it. They're knocking against that, or they're hitting against the microphone. And the director doesn't necessarily have a clear path of view of the actor in the other side of the glass, you know? And they'll hear a thud. It's like, you all right in there? It's like, oh, it's okay. I just passed out. Okay, need a second. So we always have a good supply of room temperature bottled water. Mm-hmm. And even green apples, because your mouth makes clicky noises just naturally. Yeah. And green apple, just taking one bite of a green apple helps neutralize the acids in there and helps with mouth noise. And so does the water too. But soda, that's bad. Coffee, bad. Anything milk-based causes mucus. So you don't want a milkshake or yogurt while you're doing a voiceover session. Mm-hmm.
And so your second role would have been in Blue Gender?
That was the second show that I believe we worked on. Yeah. I mean, once I was on the DBZ cast, I think we did Blue Gender before Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yep.
And, of course, we took on Dragon Ball. And we went through and did so many and then put that on hiatus because it didn't sell nearly as well as DBZ. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of fans probably thought they were going to be in for an action-packed series, and it wasn't. It's completely comedy-based. And, you know, there are a handful of Dragon Ball fans who prefer that to the action of Z, and then vice versa. And GT even has its fans, too. But, yeah, Blue Gender was like, again, a polar opposite type thing from Dragon Ball. It's like a little more reality-based. I thought it was kind of like the sci-fi movie Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Except more serious, you know, and of course it was like really graphic and all sorts of crazy stuff. And I think that might have helped in the casting with Yu Yu Hakusho. I think that helped a little bit because by the time that came along, Justin Cook moved up from engineer to director. And we went on there. But yeah, Chris Abbott directed us on Blue Gender. And we did the whole one season of the show and then the movie. And then I guess that was it for that franchise. I guess it didn't do too well.
And so with the role of Karasu, when you got that, how'd you approach that character, since that would have been one of the first times that you got to play a kind of sadistic character?
A villain. Yeah, I ended up doing the same exact voice as Aizen on Bleach years later. But Justin, the director, Justin Cook, and the voice of Yusuke, he just kind of cold cast me. I didn't even audition for it. He just thought I would be a good fit for that character, which is awesome. It's like I get to bypass the audition process and just show up and like, all right, what are we doing with this? It's like, well, he's kind of cold and sinister, so let me hear you do something maybe a little deeper and ominous, but very calm and controlled. So that's kind of where that came from. once in a while the director will be like, here, throw something at me and we'll go from there. And then other times the director will be very specific about what they want and then go from there. So my job, of course, the actor's job is to take the direction and, work with the director, but ultimately we have to please what the director/client is looking for.
Mm-hmm. And even with how evil characters like Aizen and Karasu are, can you relate to them in any way at all?
Not personally. I think every actor will tell you that it's the most fun to do a villain voice because the motivations and the character itself is so far removed from you. Mm-hmm. So it's just like a playground. Actors love inhabiting different mindsets and all these in these roles, and it's fun to explore that. Maybe the mindset of a villain isn't that he thinks he's evil. He thinks he's justified in the cause. And that makes it more interesting for the viewer. I mean, because if you make it relatable, something that's not black and white with shades of gray, not 50, but there's characteristics that people, it's like, all right, he's a bad guy. He's doing bad things, but I get why he's doing them. Mm-hmm. I totally understand. Something traumatic happened or, something kicked off, the vengeance seeking thing or the power hungry aspect or something like that. And I think that's where the writers of these shows, and especially with anime, are coming from and making characters that really resonate, whether they're good or evil, air quotes, or, in between.
I guess I can just ask now, based off of that question too, what's the darkest emotional headspace you've had to get yourself into for a role?
I think the darkest, golly, was probably Naruto when it's either in Shippuden or the fillers of the original Naruto series where Akamaru is near death and Kiba nearly loses him.
Yep.
And I hadn't had to get that serious with a character before, so that was poignant. That was interesting. For a show that has a lot of action and a lot of comedy, it was interesting to be a part of a character that had that going on and helped strengthen the bonds that I could really, really, relate to. It's like, okay, it's not just, Akamaru's his dog. It's like, well, no, they're partners.
Right.
They're family. It's so much stronger than like, I'm the master and this is my pet. It's like so much deeper than that. And those scenes really helped solidify that. And it brought me closer to the character as well.
Do you think that you're a lot like Kiba out of all the characters you've done?
I think I'm probably most like Great Saiyaman, honestly, because he's a big dork and he's just loves being over the top, and I think vocally I sound similar to other characters that I've done that are positive and inspirational, like Kamina from Gurren Lagann,
yep,
or Kaito Momota, Luminary of the Stars in Danganronpa. There's a similarity there with I'm the Great Saiyaman and the goofy aspect of it, but goofy but positive. I can definitely relate to all that stuff.
And so was it always your plan to move to LA at some point?
It was all part of the plan. I mean, I knew that because I wanted to voice in cartoons ever since I was a kid, that's where all the work is. So I knew that I'd have to get to the left coast at some point. And what helped kickstart that was getting inspiration from established voice talent that are already in Los Angeles that are also vocal coaches. So Bob Bergen, the voice of Porky Pig,
right,
and Pat Fraley, the voice of Krang in the original Ninja Turtles, and he's done tons of Scooby-Doo things through the years. These guys heard my demo and they said, you're totally talented. You would fit right in the LA talent pool and you'll work a lot more than you already are in Texas. And I kind of felt like, okay, there's only so far I can go with Dragon Ball. I'm not getting cast in any big parts on the other shows, but this is a good enough resume that I started when I was going to the conventions as guest. I'd start meeting other people that already were in LA, like Steve Bloom. And Steve Bloom said, dude, with DBZ on your resume, I can definitely walk you into some studios. And And that helped really, really cement it back in 2004. And then in late 2005, I picked up, moved from Texas. It was the scariest thing I did in my life, away from everybody and everything I knew, into the wild unknown. You know, get off the proverbial bus in LA with the deer in the headlights looking like, oh yeah, and learn the hard way that that phone isn't going to just ring and your inbox isn't going to suddenly be full because this is what you want to do.
Right.
I learned that it's like, man, I should have saved so much more money, because I went broke immediately and it was very stressful and I got in a lot of credit card debt. So I always tell people, whatever reason you're moving somewhere, save first. Save thousands of dollars before you move. You got to be ready to float for a while, pay the bills while you look for something a little more permanent. So I was doing audio production jobs. There was a talk show network that was online dedicated to recovery for addiction. Oh. And I wasn't the host, but I was running the board and recording the shows and editing them and stuff. And that's how I was kind of, that was my day job, air quotes. Meanwhile, I was networking. I got on with Steve Bloom's agent, who's been my agent ever since I moved here, and doing my part to try and meet and network with other studios so that they could get me on the audition list. And that takes time. It takes a lot of patience, a thick skin, and you got to get used to just being told no, in the form of you just don't hear back. You do the audition and they'll definitely get in touch if you're hired. But if you're not, you just have to assume, okay, they chose someone else. Once in a blue moon, maybe they'll be nice, saying, hey, we went in another direction, but we wanted you to know, we loved your audition and all that. And it's like, well, that's really cool. I wish that were more the norm, but it's not, because there's tight production deadlines and things have to be cast, and there's only so many roles. And this is a very competitive field. So, yeah.
And would your first credit in anime in LA would have been Stelvia?
I believe so. Yeah, either Stelvia or Mermaid Forest, New Generation. Those were the first two things I worked on. When I came out in 2005, in spring of 2005, to like apartment hunt and meet up with Steve Bloom and go around on a day with him around at studios and just watch him work. That was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. This is so cool. Watch him record on cartoons and then watch him dub anime and meet all these people that I would eventually work for. So yeah, Stelvia, golly, that was directed by Wendy Lee. I just did bit parts on that. And I remember that year too, because I came to record in LA my commercial demo with Nancy Wolfson, another very veteran, seasoned, knows her stuff commercial VO coach. And I also, that was the week that Revenge of the Sith came out. So I met up with some friends and watched episode 3 here in LA and started looking for a place to live, and that all got cemented later that year.
I think I actually also remembered, without looking it up, I think I remembered you being on Zatch Bell too.
Oh yeah, I got Zatch Bell, Jeff Nimoy directing that. Got some stuff on the earlier Digimon shows. Yeah. I've dabbled in so many shows, more shows in bit part form than larger ones, but hey, I'll take it, man. It's fun. It's equally fun, whether it's a bigger role or smaller role. Obviously, every actor wants the big role, but hey, I get to play for a living, and they throw a little money my way, and you cobble together a living.
And then I know around a little bit after that would have been what was the story of how you got the role of Kiba?
On Kiba, that was a matter of Steve Bloom kind of walking my demo into Studiopolis, where we recorded that show. I got in on auditions. I read for Kiba and Kabuto, maybe a handful of other characters. I think I read for Rock Lee and some other ones. And then I got Kiba. I was on the list thanks to Steve Bloom, and because I got on with Naruto, I was on the audition list for Bleach, which started the next year. So, and that, of course, just spirals into all the other stuff. And same thing with Bang Zoom. I was already on their list because of Stelvia, so I got on things So many different shows and game projects through all these studios as well.
In a comparison with Kiba and Aizen, I was just wondering, what was it more difficult to voice their characters as they developed, like one over the other?
I don't think I think it became any harder. I think it only becomes more difficult in a physical sense when there's a lot of yelling.
Yeah.
But hitting the range of emotions, no. I think it's great to get to do that. I mean, as an actor, you want to flex those muscles and try to make sure that you're on your toes and are ready to take on those aspects of it, because otherwise it's just a two-dimensional character. You want to give them that depth, and it's kind of a team process between the writers and the directors and the actor to help kind of facilitate that sort of thing.
I can imagine it would have been really cool and interesting to be like when you find out in Bleach that Aizen is betraying everybody and then he stabs Momo and all that.
Oh yeah. I was given a heads up about that.
Okay.
When I landed the role, they said, "You got the bad guy of the show." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then I started recording him, and it's like, he doesn't seem so bad. It's like, oh, he just hasn't turned yet. It's like, oh, but this is a big pivotal emotional moment, and the fans are just going to go, "What?"
Right.
And sure enough.
And you got to be on Eureka 7 also.
Yeah, I took over the saddest of circumstances. Bryce Papenbrook's father passed away, Bob Papenbrook, and I took over his character in Eureka 7 and voiced it in season 2.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how I got on board with that, and I'm trying to remember if that's where I met Tony Oliver, who directed that and went on to direct me in Gurren Lagann and other games shows and stuff. Not game shows, but games and shows.
And I'm sure you've been asked this about Gurren Lagann, but in the scene, like when Kamina dies, how did you handle that, tackle that?
That was rough, but I had a heads up. Tony said before I even recorded the first line in episode 1, he said, "Don't get too attached." And I go, "What? What?" I already knew that when I was cast that he was a fan favorite, so here I was making an assumption, which you shouldn't do. It's like, oh, it's fan favorite. Doesn't mean he's going to live, and it doesn't mean he's going to be through the whole show and then die. It's like, oh, you'll get through the first third, and then maybe a flashback here and there. And it's like, oh, okay. So I was bummed about that, but then the actual animation happens, and it's like, oh man, this is really sad. God, he's such a pivotal thing, and I've heard from so many fans, and it kind of killed my motivation to keep watching the show. I didn't get too much further past that. I didn't have enough time, but I only watched a few episodes past it, and a lot of fans said, I wanted to just stop watching. That was my favorite character. What are you doing killing the best thing on the show? And it's like, but he's the driving force that helps Simone throughout the rest of it. So it's like, maybe there's not any real way for it to play out differently other than when they did the movies. I wish they would have done an alternate timeline where he did live. Mm-hmm. That would be fun and experimental to see how different things could have played out.
And are you usually given time to prepare emotionally for roles like that, or is it often where it can just switch on a dime?
It's pretty much a cold read, okay. Then and there. If they want to prepare you or tell you, or if you ask ahead of time, they could do that. But yeah, everything is, you're rarely given the script ahead of time. Mm-hmm. Of course, nowadays with the pandemic, everybody's recording from home. So yeah, they'll send the script a day or two ahead. But I never look through that. I like being able to think on my feet and commit to a performance then and there in the moment, because that's just the way I've been trained to think, and that's my mindset. You don't want to get too complacent by saying, okay, I prepared all day, because what if your read and your direction for the character goes in a completely opposite direction of where you're going to be directed? And the way you're directed is the one that's going to end up on the final product, and you have to be able to be flexible and moldable to what the director wants from you. Mm-hmm. So I just assume wait and not bias myself. So yeah, I think it's fun to just find out. It's like, where's he going? Is this guy coming back? Oh, does he die? Oh, no, he lives. He becomes a bigger role and that in the next season. Like, oh, sweet. Okay.
One series I'm personally a fan of, I know not a whole lot of people know about, that you kind of had a bigger villainous part into, was MAR.
Oh, yeah, boy, that was a long time ago. Mid-2000s. Yeah. I don't even remember what I did, but I was a bad guy, wasn't I?
Yeah.
Didn't I sound completely different at first? And then they kind of changed the voice, but it was still me. It's like, that was odd. I think that was Viz too. It's like, wait a minute, are you sure you want to? Oh, okay. It's like, I definitely noticed, so I know the fans noticed.
Yeah. And then, I'm really into Darker Than Black.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Again, super small role. I happened to be in Dallas recording for some DBZ stuff at the time. We didn't have the ability to do the long distance stuff nice and cheap and easily like we do now. Back then, if I just happened to be coming back into town, they would ask the other directors at Funimation. It's like, hey, you got any bit parts? Kyle Hebert's in town. And it's like, oh, yeah. And Zach Bolton called me in and did some small stuff in a couple of hours while I was there. And Funimation is a building full of, like, it's on like an assembly line. Here's a bunch of studios all next to each other, and they're all working on multiple shows. So, yeah, I'd go in one and do Darker Than Black, and then go to the next one and work on One Piece, and then go to the next one and here's Ouran High School, and here's, Fruits Basket, and here's, and then sometimes nothing. I come by, and the director's like, sorry, man, we got nothing. We're doing but all-girl shows right now. It's like, oh, okay. All right, so be it.
I also wanted to ask if there was much of a story about your process or like the roles that you had in Monster. That's a really great show.
Oh yeah, that did do well. I was shocked when I actually saw that on the DVD shelves at Walmart.
Yeah,
it's like, you made it if you're in Walmart.
Right.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Patrick Seitz directing on that, and yeah, again, no real prep. Just kind of showing up, and I want to say I was just kind of cold cast. I may have read for the main cast, but I ended up being asked to come in and do smaller parts. Mm-hmm. So when I played those episodic roles, it's literally just, you show up at the session, the director catches you up to date, and then you're off and rolling, and you're done in maybe 2 hours or less. Or maybe if it's a bigger episodic chunk, maybe 4 hours, but they'll schedule maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, and then bring you back in if you have more. But I've done a lot of smaller stuff on shows like Monster.
Yeah.
And able to knock them out in maybe one session, and then 20 episodes later, they bring me back to play someone completely different. Mm-hmm. So honestly don't remember who I voiced on that. First world problems.
Yeah. And in regards to when you're coming back to voice characters and series that were, like in the case of Fruits Basket, is your approach to that any different at all?
No, because if I forgot how the character sounded, they have a reference file. They'll just have a database of MP3s, and they'll play that, and it's like, here's what you sounded like last time, and it's like, here, Pete and repeat. They'll play it, I'll repeat it, and it's like, all right, we're in the zone, and then we're off and running to record. So that's one of those things that pretty much every actor needs, unless it's a bigger character that they've done for 20 years. Like, I don't need to hear a reference for Gohan or Ryu or anything like that I've been doing for so many years, but something smaller, and then there's a long space in between. Absolutely. I gotta go on, like, what did I sound like again?
Mm-hmm. And with the case of Ryu, what was the reason why Skip Starrect was no longer doing him? Do you know?
I actually have no idea. I know Skip was not on the game, but he was on the anime Street Fighter 2, I guess. Right. Yeah, I honestly don't know. And I didn't even know that existed.
Okay.
or that Skip was Ryu before Street Fighter 4 came along. All I know is I was already on the audition list with New Generation Pictures. You know, they're probably best known at that time for Hellsing.
Mhm.
I've voiced on other projects through them, and I went in and tried out, and Ryu was on there. So I honestly don't know why Skip wasn't asked or didn't come back to voice for that. But however it played out, I was very, very blessed because I get to be Ryu in this iconic franchise, and he got to be in a little cameo in Wreck-It Ralph. So
Yeah.
that was awesome.
And with a character like that, was it also kind of your own take, or were you told to base it off the Japanese?
No, it's the read that I gave in the audition. They didn't really have any other direction to that or adjustments. On Street Fighter 4, I remember I was directed by Taliesin Jaffe, who
Okay.
Read or Die back in the day, and he was a child actor and been in
Yeah.
several movies and shows. Directed Hellsing, and he voices who's the big hulky guy on Street Fighter. It shocks everyone, but anyway, he voices him. So he would do all the screaming with me. That was an interesting process because he was looking for a certain kind of thing. And so he was like, all right, first time you got to do this spinning kick thing. It's like Tatsumaki Senpu Kyak. It's like, what did you say?
Yeah.
We're going to say this. We're going to say this phonetically slow, and then we're going to do it faster, and then you do it faster, and then do it faster. And they still ended up speeding it up digitally on the final of Street Fighter 4. And you can kind of hear it. It sounds a little robotic. It's still my audio file. It's still my voice, but it's manipulated in Pro Tools, the recording software.
Mhm. Is that one of like the really mainly difficult things for you, is pronouncing words like that?
It can be. It depends on how many syllables there are.
Yeah.
And with people saying Naruto or Naruto, or like, do you put the emphasis on the first syllable or the first vowel or the second vowel? And you get all these wavering, differing opinions. But ultimately, it's like if Viz tells us to pronounce it this way and the fans swear up and down it's this way, we have to go with what Viz tells us to do because they're the ones paying us. So, and we can let them know. It's like, the fans said it's really pronounced this way. It's like, we know, we want it this way. Like, okay, you're the boss,
In regards, in the same topic of video games, I've talked to a lot of other people like Terrence Stone and Julie Madalena that were in Dynasty Warriors games, and they all talked about how it was kind of difficult to emote in those because they were told to like talk how they did way back then. Was that the same experience you had?
Yeah. There's not a lot of room for emotional growth. With those particular games, Dynasty Warriors, I wasn't even the first Sima Yi or the others. A lot of the cast had changed through the years for whatever reason. I don't know. But basically, you preview the line in Japanese and then you do it in English. But the client really wanted us to mimic something closer to the Japanese. And even though I don't speak Japanese, I don't know if there was a wider range of emotion in those performances or not. I can't speak to that.
Yeah.
But I know that I was directed to stay in that zone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It seemed, well, yeah, just in that same topic, it seems like it might be kind of harder to do voiceover in general for characters when the dialogue is kind of stilted like that.
Right. Yeah. And you get caught with anime in particular because you can't change the animation. It is what it is. And, you're either going to say a sentence awkwardly or you're going to have to craft a line on the fly, you or the director, to try to come up with something that can still be true to the original translation and not sound too dubby or dubbish.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's like, I think you should do this. It's like, it sounds like Captain Kirk. It sounds like William Shatner, suddenly acting on your show. It's like, I can't believe it. Okay, this is just bad, guys. This is bad. We need to try harder.
So then moving into the around like the early 2010s, that was when you got the role of Berserker Fate Zero.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My favorite line of his is, ah! It does a lot of that. And I hadn't seen any of the Fate series, and there's been so many since then too, and
Yeah.
games too, right? I mean, there's fake games.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's like, all right, this is cool. This is another one that I don't think I auditioned for.
Okay.
I was brought in for and just kind of given the role. So, yeah, and when we get in there, we're told the context of what's going on, even if our character isn't that huge.
Hmm.
You know, we still, as an actor, is like, okay, what is the background? Is this war-torn area? Is this a peaceful zone? Is this, what's my motivation? You know, all the cliche things actors say about their character. It's like, oh, okay, this guy is obviously very, very pent up and angry. And I'm like, okay, all right, that's cool. So get ready to yell a lot. It's like, that's okay. I come from Dragon Ball Z. I got this.
Did you have to audition for Ryuji in Blue Exorcist?
Yes. Yes, I did, and I was shocked I got that. That was a bigger part.
Hmm.
It took a while for us to get to season 2, but eventually that dropped and ended up on a separate platform. I think the first one showed up on Hulu or something, and then the second season ended up on Netflix and
Yeah.
something weird. But yeah, and I trust the fans to let me know. Usually I'll say, is he still alive? Does the manga continue? Are they making another season? And it's like, well, hopefully they will, because the manga keeps going. It's like, oh, I hope so too.
All right.
Ended up having, I think, a slightly bigger part in season 2, so that was fun.
And how was the what was the story of how you got to be Professor Oak for Pokemon Origins?
I think very simply that for whatever reason, the Pokemon company in America decided to go with a West Coast cast instead of New York, where the anime has been recorded for decades. I don't know why they chose to go that way, since a lot of the same characters show up in that. So instead of Stuart Zagnut coming back as Professor Oak, they went ahead and they kind of cast me, and it's like, okay, I sound nothing like Stuart, but all right. It's like, oh, you don't need to worry about it. Just make it your own. So I ended up just sounding like a friendly version of Aizen. It's like, are you a boy or a girl? It's like, okay. So, but Origins, it's only 4 episodes versus the entire franchise, which is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes. But yeah, I thought it was an odd choice, but it's cool that the fans recognize that, and the hardcore ones are completists, and it's like, I gotta watch everything.
All right. Has it been very often in general where you've been asked to base your performance off of a prior actor that did a character?
Once in a while that happens, not too often. What happens more often is maybe they forget a line or two to record, and the actor isn't available to come in and pick up or re-record or record for the first time the lines that they accidentally skipped before. So maybe they'll ask another actor during their session. It's like, hey, can you sound like Richard Epcar? Can you sound like Kirk Thornton? Because they're busy and can't come back in, but they forgot we forgot to record these 2 lines or this one effort. Or, It's like, can you sound, all right, you sound close enough. We'll go ahead and use it. That happens, but not necessarily for like entire roles.
Okay.
I want to say that on Eureka 7, actually, Yuri was Renton for about a dozen episodes, and then for whatever reason, they decided they wanted to go to a different direction. They got Johnny Young Bosch. Now, I never heard Yuri's performance, and I don't know if Johnny's is anywhere the same sonically. But yeah, that can happen. It's like, just because you're cast doesn't mean you're going to end up on the final product. That's par for the course. I've recorded on shows like Gunslinger Girl, where I played a character, and then it came out, and then I actually watched the episode, and it's like, that's not me. Oh God, I got replaced, and they didn't tell me. Oh, I must suck. And it's like, no, there's just, everyone's juggling so many different plates at the time that actors just have to have that thick skin and understand. It's like, for whatever reason, that performance wasn't gelling with the other thing. We thought it was at the time, and yeah, we pay you for your time, but for whatever reason, you may end up on the cutting room floor. And it's never personal.
Right.
It happens.
And I know that in nearly every season of the redubs of Sailor Moon, you got to be a bunch of different monsters. And um, were you already familiar with how popular the series was and all that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Back when my daughter was growing up, Sailor Moon was still huge, and she
Yep.
was watching. We were collecting all the movies on video cassettes. Remember those VHS back in the day? And I didn't think that Sailor Moon would come back to get redubbed because that was all done in Canada.
Right.
And then the company decided to go with again a West Coast cast for the redo. And it's like, oh, okay. I read for Tuxedo Mask. Obviously, I didn't get that.
Oh,
Robbie Damon got that, but the casting decisions are always spot on. So
mhm.
I cannot fault casting on that. So I don't say I wish I was this because I think I can do better. It's like, nah, they picked the people they did for a reason, and because I have a fairly wide range of voices and I can do creature sounds and old and young and whatever. I think that's one of the things that me or a Kirk Thornton or a Richard Epcar or a Michael Sorich get a lot of bit part stuff in all these shows is like we can come in and fill in the gaps. It's like, all right, we got the main cast recorded, but we have like 24 smaller characters. So let's call in a couple of actors and they can knock them all out. And that's
Mhm.
usually what happens.
Is there like a highlight that you have in all the various roles you had in all the SM series?
Um, Golly. I remember laughing a lot recording his, I forgot the character's name, but he was like a boxing bird type.
Oh, one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, really? Because sometimes things happen in these shows that just make you go, oh, anime, or like, oh, Japan. And yeah, it's like, it was hard to keep a straight face during all that. I think everything else was just a normal character or a dad or something like that. But it's like, this guy transforms and he's a boxing bird. It's like, okay, I'm ready. Let's do this.
Going on to another more recent role that you've been doing for a while, Escanor.
Good old Escanor. Who decided that? The lion's sin of pride. Yeah, he's someone that I was kind of cold cast on. It's like I didn't read for him, but they thought I would be a good fit for that. So Chris Kaysen directing me at the time on those early seasons. It's like he shows up at the end of one season. It's like he's a much bigger role from here on out, but this is a little teaser. And, this one's a lot of fun because he's got two sides to him, this little meek, little timid one, and then the big buff, arrogant one.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this sounds like so much fun. So, yeah, I do the little teaser at the end of one season, and then the next season you finally see him in the full context. It's like, oh, yeah, that dude, his abs have abs. Like, what? Manliest man in manime.
Mhm. It was cool because I'm a really big fan of One Punch Man, so it was cool seeing you be Atomic Samurai because I wouldn't have totally guessed that would have been you at first.
Thank you. Yeah, I had some bit part dudes at One Punch Man totally kills in like the early episodes too, like a cricket looking, not a cricket, grasshopper looking monster thing. But yeah, Atomic Samurai. I think I read for that in some other parts, and then I eventually landed that, and it's like when season two. There was a bit of a wait for that, but then it finally came. We got to take care of that, and then we had a game too. I want to say, yeah, got to play some dude with a nose on his face, like a big
Yeah.
nose picks up the whole face. It's like, oh, this is cool. Good old One Punch.
And this, what was your thoughts on coming back for Kiba and Boruto?
Super happy because he didn't die. That
Yeah.
was nice. Uh, I mean, he's not in it a lot, but he does show up, and I like that they're helping. Kind of like with the new Star Wars trilogy and having Luke Skywalker in that. It's like let's hand off to the newer cast for better or worse. But yeah, to kind of transition and all that. So it made perfect sense to bring to show us like, well, I wonder what those characters are doing now and
Hmm.
what their life is like. So yeah, absolutely. I was pretty stoked to do that. Although I've done more stuff in Boruto as other smaller roles
Hmm.
that seem to come back a lot more often than Kiba does. He's busy growing his soul patch, under his lip there.
Would I guess would in terms of like super recent major roles, would would Fat Gum be the last big thing that you've
I
had?
would say, yeah. I think that's the biggest, most, another fan favorite character who's got a short burst and then he disappears, but hopefully he comes back. I'm told that he comes back in the manga.
Yeah.
Don't know if he'll be here this current season, but maybe the next, if they continue anyway. Certainly hope so. He's a lot of fun. He goes from Fat Gum to Fit Gum.
Yeah.
I like that aspect of him. It's like he absorbs so many punches, suddenly he's in shape. I'm like, what? But other than that, he'll just absorb you. It's like, oh, okay, I can take it.
Mm-hmm.
Absorption. Doesn't make me all the more curious to ever try takoyaki because I think that would be too chewy. They make it look so good. And usually if you fry anything, it's going to taste good. Here, dip this shoe in batter and deep fry it. Good shoe. Maybe that could help disguise the chewy aspect, which kind of grosses me out. And I love seafood, but I don't think I'd try that.
I do want to bring up two before this ends that I know you got to be in Demon Slayer as one of the spiders.
Ooh, yeah. Was he in the show or the movie? I know it was
The show.
Okay. Cool, because here's the true confession. I haven't seen most of the stuff that I've been in other than what I recorded.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of my memories are kind of based on, oh yeah, I recorded that from home because of the timing of it. It's like, oh, okay, so 2020, starting when the pandemic started, everyone had to start recording from home, so that was nice. It's like, hey, okay, I hop in my recording space. As you can see here, it's my closet, but engineer approved for the professional mic and the interface and all that, and digitally patching into all the studios. And we did that, and I did come back for the movie in a very minor thing. So that was pretty cool to see. Demon Slayer was like the #1 grossing anime movie, I think, of all time. Like it surpassed. That's going to make it difficult, or not actually difficult. It's going to make it interesting for the next Dragon Ball, the super movie that was announced for 2022. It's like, oh yeah, hold my beer. What's these box office numbers? Ha ha ha.
Well, I was going to ask, because I've interviewed Steve Staley as well. I was going to ask like how it is being directed by him.
Super cool, super chill. He's a great, very relaxed director. And a good director will always do their homework ahead of time. They'll study the episodes or the scripts, and they'll be able to help you finagle that performance because they know what's going on, but you as the actor don't necessarily. Unless you sit there and read the script ahead of time, but who has time? Oh, wait, we're all stuck at home. Maybe we do all have time. It's like, I just rather play Call of Duty. I like cold reading. Keeps me on my toes. But yeah, Steve's a great director. He's super fun, and he actually is a neighbor of mine. He lives like 2 minutes away from me. So we run into each other at the local grocery store from time to time. It's like, hey, neighbor, what's up?
There are particular people in the community that you're like really good friends with more than others?
Golly. Probably closest with Chris Kaysen.
Okay.
I probably talk to him the most though by texting. Because, of course, the pandemic, no one's really spending FaceTime with each other. But we all use social media to kind of meet up, and if there are cons, we'll actually, even though we live in the same city, we won't have any actually time spent together except in the green room at a con on the other side of the country. And I imagine I'll probably see people next month in Orlando. I'm scheduled to go to Anime Fest Orlando, and it's like, okay, this will be interesting. Not only are more people getting vaccinated, I'm already vaccinated, so
yeah,
I'm gonna be good to go. I have to look at the guest list. Like, who do I get to catch up on, and who can I geek out over meeting for the first time?
Do you know Bridget Hoffman very well?
No, I might know the name though. It sounds familiar.
Oh, okay. Because she was mostly in she started like in dubs back when like Wendy Lee and Mary Elizabeth McGlynn did. So I'm not sure if you would know that like whole group of people or not, depending on who it is.
Not all of them, no. There's some that just just don't work as much, or they retired, or
Right.
whatnot. But the ones I mentioned, like Kirk Thornton, Epcar, and Mary Elizabeth, Wendy Lee, that were there since like Robotech in the '80s, or
Yeah.
go way back, Tony Oliver. Yeah.
So is there any other anime series that you have recently done that you can't talk about, or anything upcoming, or
I'm working on. Boop. No, no. I don't know. I recently think we wrapped on Jujutsu Kaisen. I think they're all out on Crunchyroll. Yeah.
oh yeah.
So yeah, Yoshinobu Gakuganji was on there. He likes his flying V guitar, which is pretty awesome. Big metal fan.
Yeah.
um, there's stuff coming down the pike, but of course I can't talk about it until it comes out.
Okay.
But yeah, hopefully there'll be more cool stuff. I think the next thing that drops that's already been announced is Ryu in the Power Rangers Battle for the Grid game. The game's been out for a couple years, but he'll be a downloadable, playable character in just a couple weeks.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. It's morphin' time. I was like, I get to say that? That's pretty sweet.
Right.
I don't know who thought of that. Like, who can we stick in a Power Rangers game? Let's put the most random thing. Like, okay. I'm good with it.
And I do like to end every interview I do with asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
What do I want my legacy to be? I want to be able to inspire people. I want to be able to help them through a tough time with entertainment or inspiration. I want people to know that it is possible to have a job that you love, and that, you're rich, your soul is enriched more so than your pocketbook.
Right.
It's like, okay, so I'm not living in a mansion or driving a Tesla or anything, but I love my job so much that I see myself doing this till I can't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I want my legacy to say, I want to inspire people to follow their passions instead of wondering what if,
Right.
and having regrets about not following their dream. I followed my dream. I'm living my dream, and I'm going to continue in that pursuit. I'm not going to just hang it up on the wall and go, well, I'm done. I'm interested to see where this journey takes me.
Well, thanks. I'm glad that we still got to make it work.
Oh yeah, totally. Rock and roll.
And even though it was just a couple of roles, I'm glad that I brought up some stuff that I don't think you've ever been asked about, like MAR and stuff like that.
You're very correct. No one ever catches that. And I love it. I love it when people ask about something more obscure.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I didn't remember much beyond, oh yeah, I recorded on that. And it's
Right.
like, I did remember the little nugget about his voice changing entirely.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't go back and redub the early ones with the newer voice. It's like, we should have done that, but okay.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
Oh, my pleasure, man. Anytime. Hey, tag me on Twitter whenever are you posting this as a podcast or what? Or is this?
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Tag me in that and I'll reshare it whenever you post it.
Oh, great. Thanks. Yeah.
Oh, my pleasure, man.
Bye.
All right. Take care.